Hello there, and welcome to Security Nuggets podcast, where we engage and unpack security risk related insights. And I'm your host, Ashley, your security risk consultant. And I'm happy to see you here as always. And in this episode, we are literally wrapping up a couple of episodes we've been running on the topic of situational awareness. And I've had a lot of fun during this sequel of situational awareness. We've basically been expounding on the subject and putting it in context with different scenarios, just to create that awareness and to emphasize on the importance of situational awareness when it is leveraged as a tool to enhance on our awareness skills and to heighten on our decision making and to make us quick in responding to threatening scenarios and situations within our workplace and also partly within our personal lives. As we do a recap of this topic of situational awareness, I would like us to contextualize situation awareness in threat assessment. That way, you can be able to apply situational awareness in whatever threat scenario context moving forward. All right, for your organization and even on a personal note. Now, in assessing the threat, we definitely need to consider the critical defensive principles of the 3Ds and the 3Rs to help us mitigate the probability and the severity of any potential threat scenario. All right. Now, the 3Ds are deter, detect, and delay. And what these 3Ds do is that they help us mitigate the probability of a threat scenario, all right? Now, when we talk of deter, we are talking of discouraging the threat scenarios from happening, right? And when we talk of detection, we mean identifying those threat scenarios as they unravel or as they happen. And when we talk of delay, we mean delaying, all right, those threat scenarios from actually being actualized, from actually happening, okay? So those are the 3Ds which are supposed to help us mitigate the probability of a threat scenario. In other words, they help us reduce the likelihood of that threat scenario from actualizing, okay? So we can utilize situation awareness as a mitigation tool for any threat scenario, all right, to help us deter the threat scenario, to help us detect the threat scenario, and to help us delay the threat scenario. Now, for instance, using some of the scenarios that we touched on over our last couple of episodes, right? When we were talking about counterterrorism and we were looking at how we can leverage on situational awareness to help us in counterterrorism, right? Now, how can we use situational awareness as a mitigation action plan for that sort of threat and optimize on the 3Ds of mitigating the probability of that threat scenario? How can we go about that? Now, for instance, all right, by using situational awareness to help heighten detection skills of any terrorism activity, all right, to help heighten detection of any hostile reconnaissance, okay, whereby we've trained our employees on the things that they should be looking out for, the things that could potentially be terrorism activity, all right? And we have incorporated situational awareness to help in their decision making and to help them make those fast decisions, okay? What can happen is we are likely to deter a threat scenario from actualizing. For instance, if one of your employees is able to spot a hostile reconnaissance sighting, whereby they've probably seen a strange activity or they've seen a strange person fitting the description of someone who is conducting, or people who are conducting hostile reconnaissance, which is they are gathering information, they are doing their pre-survey and research for a target, one of the targets where they want to hit or where they want to attack. They are doing their research and survey, right? And in the process of doing that survey, which is what we call hostile reconnaissance, they are sighted, they are seen, they are detected, okay? And when this is escalated and reported, then we can be able to thwart that activity of hostile reconnaissance. We are telling them, look, we've seen that you guys are doing your survey and you're targeting our institution or facility or establishment. And since we know what you're planning, we are going to counter by sharing this information with any related stakeholders, okay, by improving on our defense mechanisms, okay, by staying more vigilant and alert, all right, by doing our further investigations to apprehend you guys who are doing this hostile reconnaissance, so that is how situation awareness, skill, and capability can help quicken decision making in such a scenario, therefore deterring a threat scenario that is related to terrorism, okay? So that is how you can contextualize situation awareness in threat assessment, okay? A threat was assessed, a threat was identified, okay? And to mitigate against that threat from happening, to mitigate the probability of it happening, employees or the front line security employees were trained on counterterrorism and situational awareness was used in that training to help them in their awareness, to help them increase on their decision making, to help them increase on their response, okay? So that if they can spot any suspicious sighting or any suspicious activity, then they can be able to respond effectively. And by so doing, they can be able to thwart and deter that activity from happening, all right? Another example of how you can contextualize situational awareness for threat assessment, and in this case, to mitigate the probability of a threat scenario from actually happening, okay? Therefore, we are either deterring, detecting, or delaying the threat scenario, okay? For instance, if you're working in a facility and when your employees are working, they happen to spot a potential hazardous scenario, all right? And through the training of probably safety in workplace, through the training of safety in workplace, you have incorporated situational awareness to help your employees respond effectively to those sort of scenarios, okay? So your employees, when they were working, they spotted a potential hazardous scenario, okay? It's not happened yet, but it has potential to happen, okay? They were able to report in good time so that that hazardous scenario can be neutralized, okay? Therefore, deterring a potential hazardous scenario that probably might have had a catastrophic impact from happening, okay? Or maybe they did not report and escalate. They were able to take a corrective action through the training that they have been given. They were able to take a corrective action, and they were able to deal with that hazardous scenario, and they were able to stop it from happening, stop it from actualizing, okay? So they have been able to deter. They have been able to deter a hazardous scenario from actualizing, which is a threat. They've mitigated the probability of that threat happening, okay? So that is how you can contextualize situation awareness in threat assessment, okay? When it comes to the 3 Rs, that is response, report, and recover. Where these 3 Rs are supposed to help our organization mitigate against the severity of a potential threat action or the threat scenario, right? What's supposed to happen, all right, for us to optimize on that principle of the 3 Rs as a defensive principle? Now, when it comes to responding, we are actually talking about the time at which an organization is taking to respond to threat scenarios, okay? What is the time frame of response and how are we responding to those potential threat scenarios and actions, okay? And when it comes to reporting, how is that threat handled, okay? When it happens and actualizes, how is it reported, all right? What are the reporting mechanisms that we have in place as an organization, okay? When it comes to recover, all right? How is the adaptive capacity during that state where the threat action is being actualized and it has happened? I mean, how is our adaptive capacity and capability? I mean, how are we going to move forward and continue with an organization's activity and operations after or when that threat is happening or after it has happened, okay? So those 3 Rs, we're supposed to leverage on that principle to make sure that those 3 Rs are indeed helping as an organization mitigate against the severity of a threat action, okay? Again, situational awareness can be used and can be leveraged, okay, to carry out these tasks of responding, reporting, and recovering. We can see how we can utilize and leverage on situational awareness in either the three, okay? So that we can get to mitigate the severity of any threat scenario, threat action from happening. For instance, let's use an example, okay? If we have established and identified a potential threat action that could actually cause a crisis within an organization or maybe of that emergency status, okay? By using situational awareness to enhance on skills and capabilities, we can be able to effectively respond to that threat action, okay? And we can also be able to recover from that threat action. Those are two tasks that we've been able to accomplish by using situational awareness under that principle of the 3 Rs, okay? Because by using situational awareness, we've been able to improve on our response capabilities during the crisis of anticipation. If you are an organization that is wondering, or a professional that wants to introduce situational awareness as a tool that can be used within your organization, and you're wondering, where do I start? Where do I begin? All right. This is what I can recommend. All right. Do what we call a scenario-based risk planning. Now, this is a risk assessment that is directed to a specific threat scenario. Now, for instance, in our last episode where we were talking about travel security and safety, we'll use that scenario as an example. If you're an organization that has your employees traveling a lot for business-related engagements, okay? You may want to do that scenario-based risk planning along the lines of business travel security, okay? So in your scenario-based planning, risk planning, okay, look at the destinations where your employees are traveling to for business. Identify the potential threat scenarios or actions that they could be facing during their traveling and well at that destination, okay? Then do that scenario-based assessment, like be very specific on those potential threats. If their area of destination, the area they're traveling to, you've identified that there are potential threats in that destination associated to mugging, associated to theft, okay, associated to kidnapping, then you need to do a scenario-based risk planning, and you need to incorporate that in your business travel security management program. Like you need to include that, incorporate that, and be specific on that, because you already know, you've been very specific on the destination that your employees are traveling to, all right? So you get very scenario based with it, okay? So that is how I would recommend you go about it. Identify the potential threat scenarios within your organization. What is it? That's what threat is occurring. What threat is very predominant within your organization? I mean, it's predominant because there's history to prove that. When you're looking at your previous data and your historical data, you've had this threat impact on your organization. It's been happening. So it's very specific. It's target to your organization. So you can take that threat scenario, all right, and do a scenario-based risk planning based on that scenario and see how you can incorporate situational risk awareness as one of the mitigation tools that you're going to be putting in place to counter that threat. You're probably going to put many other mitigation action plans, but include situational awareness in that, because if one of the mitigation action plans very much have to do with whatever awareness or training for your employees, then you need to incorporate situational awareness just to give it more value, so that when your employees are trained and awareness is created pertaining that specific threat scenario, they are able to effectively relate with the content of training, and in real life scenario where those threats are being actualized, they're able to effectively respond to it in line with what they've been trained, and they're able to make the appropriate decisions, and they're able to just do the right thing. Now, as we wind up, this is what I can recommend, that we need to avoid the tunnel vision. We need to avoid the narrow focus when we are dealing with threat actions and threat scenarios. Whether you're looking at threats from an organization point of view, or whether you're looking at threats from a personal point of view, and you're looking at your personal safety and security, we need to stop having that tunnel vision when we are looking at threats, all right? We need to tune in. We need to tune in to our current environment of operation, our current environment of activity. We always need to try and tune in into that environment, because when we do that, then we are able to adjust, we are able to adapt accordingly, and we are able to utilize and leverage on tools such as situational awareness to help increase on our security levels and our safety levels, okay? So I hope that you have really learned and you have really soaked in insightful insights in this episode and over the last couple of episodes. Again, if you haven't had a chance to watch, kindly do and bring yourself up to speed. And until our next episode, I've had a lot of fun having you guys here, and I thank you for watching, and goodbye for now.